Okay. Does everyone see my screen now? Is that a yes?
Yes, I can
Excellent.
see it.
Yep, we got
Awesome.
it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so like Lori said, this is the AI literacy webinar. We are focusing on understanding its limits and using human judgment. And we are the Library Strengthening Connections team, joined by Clarissa Arguello. She's the Adult Services and Literacy Consultant. You just met Lori Special. I'm Jenny Casey, and we also have Caroline Freeman and Tammy Walsh with us. They are both digital facilitators. So before we start, let's take a quick look at our learning goals for today. By the end of the session, you'll be able to explain what AI can and cannot do, recognize its limitations like bias, its lack of true understanding, and the need for human judgment when working with AI tools. We'll also talk about how to decide when AI is helpful and when it may not be the best choice, and how library staff can support patrons in using AI responsibly. And I also want to mention that the tools we'll discuss today are shared for informational and educational purposes only. Mentioning a specific AI tool does not represent an endorsement. Our goal is just to help you better understand how these tools work so you can make informed decisions and help your patrons do the same. All right. So before we talk about how generative AI works, it helps to recognize that most of us are already using AI in our daily lives. And a lot of the time, we do it without even really thinking about it. So there are several types of AI, and each one has a slightly different purpose. Generative AI is the one we'll be talking about today, and it's probably the first thing that most people think about when they think of AI. These tools create context based on what you ask for. Tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot can create text, summarize information, or help brainstorm ideas. And this is the type of AI that can feel most conversational because it responds to natural language. And this is the one, we're going to be talking about, but there are other kinds too. So predictive AI works a little differently, and it's one a lot of people don't think about. Instead of creating something new, it recommends content based on patterns in your behavior. So when you use Netflix or Amazon, and Netflix suggests a show you might like, or Amazon recommends products, that's predictive AI. It looks at what similar users have done and predicts what you might want next. Then there's assistive AI. Assistive AI supports everyday tasks, and this includes things like GPS, autocorrect, and voice assistance. And these tools are designed to make our everyday routines easier and more efficient. And finally, there's research support AI. It helps guide people to information. So some of your library databases, you might use EBSCO or ProQuest. They use AI features to suggest keywords and recommend related articles or improve search results. And this type of AI is designed to help people navigate large amounts of information effectively. So when we look at these examples, we can see AI isn't just one single tool. It's a lot of unique technologies designed to support different tasks. And understanding these differences helps us make better decisions about when AI might be useful and when human judgment is still essential. So what can AI do? AI tools are designed to work with our language, which is why they feel so easy to use. They're very intuitive. AI can answer questions in plain language. It can summarize information, generate drafts. It can give you examples and explain unfamiliar topics. And a lot of people find it helpful because it can give you a quick starting point or make something that's very complex feel easier to understand. And that's because it responds conversationally. It often feels very natural to interact with. What AI can't do. Even though AI sounds very confident, it's important to remember that it can't actually think or understand information the way people do. It doesn't have opinions or beliefs or real knowledge, and it doesn't know what's true. It can't fact check itself or determine whether something is accurate. It can generate helpful responses, but it doesn't verify that information it's giving you the way a person would. So, because of this, the responses can sometimes be incomplete, outdated, or even incorrect. AI can also present information in a way that sounds very polished, even when it's wrong or the logic is flawed. And when we say outdated, we're not just talking about facts, we're also talking about perspective. AI reflects the information it was trained on, and that means it can repeat bias, stereotypes, or even missing perspective. So it's always important to consider, who's being represented, who's not being represented, where that information really came from. So AI sounds confident, but confident doesn't always mean accurate. And that's why human judgment is still so essential. So, why does this matter? There's a lot of mixed feelings about AI. Some people love it and others are very skeptical. I was noticing those of you who filled out the survey before, some of you mentioned that people don't like it or they don't trust it. They don't want to use it at all. And, that's a healthy perspective to have. There's a lot of skepticism out there. But AI is already part of our everyday life. We encounter it when we're searching online, writing emails, applying for jobs, or using customer service chat tools. And a lot of library patrons are already using it too, whether they realize it or not. Some might be using it to help write resumes or messages, and others might be using it like a search engine to solve problems. A friend recently told me about applying for a job. She uploaded her resume and she was clearly qualified for the job, but the system flagged her as not a strong match. So when she tried again using a different account, she let the system generate a resume for her based on her experience. And that version of her resume was objectively worse. But because it matched more of the exact words from a job posting, the system rated her as a strong match and she was able to get to that next level. Um, so the thing is, the system wasn't really evaluating her resumes by which was stronger. It wasn't looking at it the way a human would. It was evaluating which one matched the language of the job description more closely. So whether you love AI or you're hesitant to use it, it's here to stay. And librarians don't need to be experts in AI, but we do need to be prepared to support our patrons as they navigate these tools and help understand how they work, because for some very practical reasons, even if it's a patron coming in for career search, they're going to have to understand how AI works and get past that level before they can even speak to a human in a lot of cases now. Okay, so how does AI generate answers? Here's the really important thing to keep in mind. Like I said, AI doesn't actually look up any answers or think about information the way people would. Instead, it's been trained on massive amounts of human written text, like books, articles, and websites. And from that text, it learns patterns in how words are commonly put together. So when you ask a question, AI is predicting the next most likely word based on those patterns. Then it predicts the next word and the next, and it builds a response one word at a time. And because it's learned so much human language, the response sounds very natural and very confident, even though AI isn't actually verifying any of the information. Because of this, AI doesn't always get it right. AI is always predicting language, which means it's also guessing. And most of the time, the guesses sound reasonable. But sometimes AI fills in gaps with information that just sounds plausible, but it's actually incorrect. And that's called a hallucination. So, for example, AI might invent a source or an author or present something as fact that hasn't been verified. And its response can sound confident, even when the information is completely wrong. And that's why it's so important that you take your time when you get an AI output and verify the information that it generates for you. And that's one of the big differences between open AI tools and library databases. OpenAI tools are trained on large amounts of publicly available text, and they generate responses based on patterns in the data. And content can vary widely in quality and accuracy. Some of that information might come from high quality medical or educational content, but some of it might come from things that people have posted in online forums. You really just don't know. But library databases provide curated, evidence based sources that have been selected and reviewed. And both tools can be useful, but they serve very different purposes. Generative AI is helpful for getting started, brainstorming ideas, or simplifying information. But library databases, research based AI, is designed to provide reliable, verifiable sources. So AI is changing how we evaluate information. Before AI, we had to ask if our sources were credible, but AI changes all that. Answers appear instantly and they're polished, but the sources just aren't always there. And when sources are there, they might be invented. Different tools give different answers, and the output you receive depends a lot on how you phrase your prompt. Like I said, AI looks for patterns in language. So it responds to the way your question is worded. Your phrasing can influence what information is emphasized and what examples are included and how confident the answer sounds. I actually read an article the other day that suggested that the output that men receive tended to sound more confident just because of the way they phrased their questions than the way women phrased them, because there was a lot more balance in how women were phrasing them. So they were getting both sides. Um, but AI isn't just modeling your language, it's even small changes in phrasing can lead to very different responses. So, for example, let's imagine asking AI about coffee. If you ask, is coffee bad for you? The response will likely focus on the risks or the negative effects. But if you ask, what are the benefits of drinking coffee? The response is probably going to highlight the health benefits. But then if you ask how much coffee is safe to drink, the answer will focus more on moderation and recommended limits. So your topic hasn't changed, but the phrasing has. AI is just responding to the phrasing of the question, which means the answer is partly shaped by the user. So AI responses can vary depending on how a question is asked. And because of this, the information can feel inconsistent. And for those of you who looked at the pre work and did that, you probably saw that. When answers are confident, it can be very easy to accept them without questioning it. But on the other hand, seeing different answers to similar questions can make the information sound uncertain or unreliable. So people can tend to trust the information too quickly, or they might start to doubt everything they read. Either way, it becomes harder for us to make an informed decision. And this again is where librarians come in, because we play an important role here. We're not just fact checkers. We help people think about how information is created, how it's filtered, and how to evaluate what we find. So using AI thoughtfully isn't just about becoming an expert in how AI works. It's about developing a few habits that help people use these tools carefully and confidently. In a perfect world, your patrons would automatically go to a credible website to do their research. And some of your patrons may have never used ChatGPT or any other open AI tool. But for over 2 decades, Google has been the #1 search engine in the world. So we know they're Googling. And now users get AI overviews automatically from Google, unless they have it turned off. Um, I have a background in community colleges, and I was working with them in 2024 when Google rolled out its AI overview. And I saw students, adult students, who were citing the AI overview in Google without ever actually clicking on any of the sources. So we know it's not a perfect world. People are using AI and will continue to do so. It's easy, it's efficient, but it has its limits, and we need to understand those limits and help our patrons do the same. Okay, so how AI is being used and what does that mean for us? First, we need to ask clear, specific questions to help AI give us more useful responses. Vague questions are going to lead to vague answers. So if we go back to our coffee example, instead of asking, tell me about coffee, try, how much coffee is considered safe for adults? It's clear and specific, and that helps guide the response. It's also helpful to ask for balance. So instead of saying, is coffee bad for you? Tell me what are the health benefits and risks of drinking coffee. And that gives you a more complete answer. And, don't forget, you can also ask follow up questions. You don't have to get everything into one prompt. So you can ask, does that recommendation change based on age or health conditions? Because follow up questions will help refine the information you receive and help fill in those gaps. And of course, it's important to verify the information before trusting it. So you might even ask, where can I find research to support these recommendations? Or can you point me to reliable sources? Because AI is a tool and we need to pause, question, and verify the information. So, in addition to how we verify information, we also need to think about what we're sharing. First, we need to avoid entering any personally identifiable information. This includes patrons' names, contact information, account details, passwords, financial info, private workplace information, or confidential documents. So, for example, somebody might paste a full resume into AI to look for help with wording. But resumes include names, phone numbers, email addresses, locations, and employment history. And all of that can identify a real person. So instead of entering the entire document with personal details, it's better to remove identifying information before pasting it into the tool. And the same applies when drafting emails. A person might want help writing a message and include more personal information than they realize. So they might type, help me write an email to my landlord at 123 Maple Street about a leak in my apartment and let them know I'll be out of town next week. Um, so that might not seem like a big deal, but it includes identifying details like home address and information about their schedule. And even though it's low risk, the information is still not just in the user's email, it's out there, it's in another system. But the bigger issue is the habit. If someone gets in the habit of pasting addresses, schedules, and personal details into an open AI tool, they might eventually do it with more sensitive information without even thinking about it. So instead, it's safer just to keep those requests general, leave out identifying details. So rather than including specifics, a better prompt would be, help me write an email to my landlord about a maintenance issue. Then the patron can go in and add their personal information directly into the email and forward it on. And this allows you to help get helpful wording while still protecting the patron's privacy. A good rule of thumb is if you wouldn't post it on social media, don't type it into an AI tool. Um, an idea and this idea of being careful with what we share also applies to how different AI tools handle your information. There's a difference between free and paid AI tools. They don't treat your information exactly the same way. Free versions are more likely to use your conversations to improve the system, while paid versions give you more control over your privacy. But in both cases, your conversations are being stored in some way. So the safest habit is to avoid entering anything sensitive, and look at those privacy information settings and opt out of data collection when you can. So, as we're using AI, just be thoughtful about what we share. That's very important. And now I'm going to pass it over to Clarissa, and she's going to walk us through the pre work observations and share some practical ways that librarians can use AI.
Okay, sorry. I had to find my mic. Okay, thank you, Caroline. So I want to talk a little bit about how we're already using AI and ways that we can use AI to support our the public. And so, this slide's going to focus on that support. And so for programming, AI can help us brainstorm ideas. It could help us create an outline of an event or a program, or help us build our full program plan based on a theme or our audience. It's really useful when you're feeling stuck, when you are not sure in what direction to go in. It's kind of good to get a little bit of background there. It can help you generate ideas that align with your community needs. You can tell it, I live in this place. This is this information from the census, using that to help you build that program. How to do a resume building program. Folks, like Jenny said, folks are already using this to build resumes. They're already using it when they're submitting their applications. So, help them use AI to build their resumes, or other workforce development, or teaching digital skills. For story time, AI can suggest age-appropriate books. It could give you ideas for songs or different rhymes or finger plays that connect to a certain theme. And it can help you vary what you're already doing so it doesn't feel repetitive. I remember when I used to do story times, uh, I used to do an A through Z, and so every week was a different letter. And sometimes it just felt like I was doing the same letter, but clearly it wasn't. But it felt like the same letter because everything kind of melded together. So this is kind of a great way to again get some ideas to move to change. For book clubs, there was a really great presentation at PLA, and they talked about using AI for book clubs. So you can use it to help you generate your discussion questions, especially open-ended ones. You want to encourage that participation. It can help you suggest themes or other titles to help you build on that conversation. But remember, again, AI has not read the book. The only thing that AI has read are the summaries that are found online, the Goodreads, the reviews that people post. So because of copyright, it does not know what the book is about. And you can also use that for your programming. You can go in and you can ask folks, okay, we've all read this book. Let's do an AI search and see what summary AI gives us. And you can use, like a basic chat GPT. And that could be kind of part of your lesson. You're doing a book club, but you're also teaching digital literacy and AI at the same time. It can help you support reader advisory, by helping give you read alikes or quick book lists. We do have, other resources like Novelist, but AI can maybe help you do a scan of books that are being made into movies or that have been made into movies. For outreach, it can help you draft flyers or handouts, different signage. It can help you when creating resource guides or program descriptions or any kind of copy that you need for that marketing. It can help you assist with translations or simplifying your text, which will help us serve our multilingual communities and our patrons with different literacy levels. One area that I have recently started reading more about is in genealogy and family history research. Staff are using it to help interpret historical documents, to summarize census records, or generate research questions to help guide that patron. It can help you brainstorm search strategies, explain some terms that we no longer use that may come up in context because, it's an older record. But it does not replace those databases or those primary sources. And so, your patrons will come to you and you'll be able to use that as that tool. And again, AI is not replacing that expertise. It's helping us work faster. It's helping us expand what we're offering. Have any of you used AI in any of those ways? Can you put that on in the chat for me, or just raise your hand, or and Lori gave us a quote: Assistive Books and Library Services, ABLS, has a few titles on how to use AI, Mastering AI, a survival guide. Okay. Okay,
Also,
William. Yes.
I'm sorry, go
Lori.
ahead, Clarissa, sorry.
No,
I
I
was
didn't
just
know if
gonna
it was
say-
you or if it was William.
Oh, no, it's
Okay, so William has
William.
used it for programming. Great.
While we're waiting for more replies in chat, there is a question in the Q&A, and this kind of goes back to something that Jenny said about, are there sites or are there ways to fact check AI to know if somebody, or fact check for AI to know if somebody used AI to do something? And the context is for computer code, but I think this applies to anything. And for those of you who've been in library school lately, or any school, there's usually an AI checker on the learning management system, whether it's Canva or Blackboard or wherever. So for the presenters, is there a site to fact check AI against to find out if it was created by AI?
I have used Grammarly.
Mhm.
I believe it is free. I don't know how robust of a checker it is, but that's one that I've used in the past. Jenny?
Yes. I know that Purdue Owl also has one too. I've tried using that. From everything I've heard, they are out there. There are quite a few, but they're not as reliable as you would want them to be. Especially if you're talking about something that's research based, because if you are quoting material, it doesn't take that into account. It flags it as plagiarized. So not necessarily using AI, but it's really getting harder and harder to identify it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can try, but you still have to use that human judgment, because really it's AI trying to confirm if something else is AI.
So, Jen, what I would say is have them do an in-person, like have them do some of the work that they're doing on paper at home in person. Just even if it's just like one of the questions that you've given them, to kind of
Mhm.
see how they're see if they've understood it. I will say, try to explain to students that if they use AI, then it's hurting them because they're not learning it, is hard for them to get because they don't want to get anything wrong. So I think that's that's what I've kind of seen. And from what I've heard from people that are teachers, and they
Right.
especially in the colleges, they're like, oh, my ESL class, they're coming in and they're acing all of the homework, but then they're struggling in class. And it's like, okay, clearly they're using AI to answer the questions because they don't want to get them wrong. But if they're not
Mhm.
practicing at home and they're not doing it themselves, then they're not going to learn English. They're,
Right.
they're doing themselves that disservice. So that would be kind of a way for them, for you to be able to see if they're actually learning the material.
Right. I have heard several teachers are asking their students to, just write something personal about themselves, even if it's just, oh, what did you do over summer break? And then they have that sample of their actual writing because, writing, it's not a fingerprint, but it's pretty close. You can compare the two and tell if someone wrote something. So it's good just to have that baseline of what their writing is, and that's probably one of the most accurate ways to go about it.
Definitely. William, can you share some of the programming ideas that you've gotten through using AI, and have you implemented them into your programming? And then Megan also talked about that. If you have access to your mic. I feel like not everyone does. Okay. And okay, using it to teach tech classes for seniors. Yeah, excellent. I know. Sorry. The no mic. That was on me. No worries. We'll try to get people mics so that we can talk a little bit more about the pre-work after. And let's go to the next slide and let's talk about ways that we can use AI kind of behind the scenes. See if I can. Okay. Can we go to the next slide? Sorry, Jenny.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, just real quick, let's see. So we're going to talk in this slide about using AI for staff work, for operations, for behind the scenes kind of work that we're doing. AI is especially helpful for drafting grants, for writing grants or reports. It's not going to replace that knowledge that you have of your community. But again, like I said earlier, with census information, it can help you kind of format that. For grants, especially, like for LSTA grants, there are specific questions that we require, that we want. And, a lot of grants will provide you with a rubric. And so you can look through that rubric and you can ask AI, have I answered the questions to fulfill this rubric? It can help you draft your narratives, organize your ideas. And, I think that that's a great way to use AI, but always go back. Don't just use that first that first answer that AI has given you. Go back, read it. You read it over. Does it sound repetitive? Does it sound like I am answering this rubric? Have I given enough information about my community or about my audience? Because there's a difference. The audience that you have versus your community. Who are you actually trying to target with your grant? It's helpful for writing program reports or impact summaries for your grants, or any other kinds of reports that you need for your boards, for state reporting, things like that. Again, it's helping you put that information in order. For marketing, I talked a little bit about that in the last slide, but it can help you with copy, especially social media captions or event descriptions for flyers or posters. If you're writing a newsletter and you kind of want to change the tone of the newsletter to match the audience, if one of your newsletters goes to your adults versus families, you want to kind of match that tone, you can use AI to help you with that. It's good for summarizing meeting notes. I take a lot of notes. I'm a big note taker, and sometimes it's just bullet points. That's all I'm writing. I'm just like bullet points. Duh, 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 duh. And then sometimes I'll use our Copilot, and I'll be like, help me format this so that I can clearly see where those action items are. So, I'm not just writing notes to write notes. I'm giving myself something to do with that. Um, for everyday communication, it can help you, writing emails, refining emails, especially an email that you're sending, to someone that you need to give them a certain amount of information. It isn't going to be an everyday response email, but sometimes, you'll have someone who's asking you for a particular thing. You're not the person to do it or something like that. You could ask and you could get help writing that. And other internal work, creating training materials, if you're working on onboarding new staff or you're building your digital literacy guides, similar to what William said that he was doing with his older adults, helping you kind of create that training material, giving you a step-by-step process. I think that that's something that I've seen that AI is really helpful for, giving those different steps. Helping you draft or refine policies and procedures. You're giving your staff that point where they can go. And I think that that's also another good way to use AI. And again, it is not replacing what you have, and you're using it as a tool to help you refine it. And then you would go back and say, okay, does this make sense? Does this actually follow our policy? I think that that's also part of it. So it's about saving time on something that would maybe take you much longer. If I went through every single one of those notes that I take for all the meetings that I attend, it would take me forever. I would just be constantly going through my notes. So, this way, if it's a really robust meeting that I've taken a lot of notes in, being able to say, give me the action items from these notes. And then maybe sometimes you have to send out the meeting notes to everyone else. That would be a great way to do it. So that will save you time. Okay, Lori, there are some comments in the chat. AARP Oats does have a great curriculum for seniors. We can send that information out. Megan, did you use AARP? Oh, you used AI. Okay. For 2 to 12-year-old age group for creating crafts to align with the summer reading theme of Unearth. Excellent. Yes, North Star is very accessible to seniors, to older adults. They offer curriculum, which I think is incredibly useful, and you can use AI to help you tailor your curriculum to the actual people who are coming in or the people that you are your actual audience. Creating a baseline document, exactly. That's kind of what I was saying with my meeting notes. I'm taking my meeting notes and that's my baseline document. And then I'm using AI to kind of give me just an organization of that because it's very stream of consciousness sometimes, my meeting notes in bullet form. Okay, Megan says, I gave the AI a very thorough prompt. I told the AI I was a children's librarian, gave it the specifics of who the program was for, what type of setup and cleanup that I could do, what kinds of supplies I had, and what I didn't want. No paper plate crafts. Excellent. The weekly theme, how long the craft should take, what style of craft, and the focus on the process for the art, and then you refined your answer. Okay. Love that. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about our pre-work next. Can we unmute people? It would be just so much easier.
Yes, I will do.
Okay. Forrest, did you want to wait till you're unable to unmute, or did you want to just type it in the chat, your question?
I did it
Okay,
so everybody
fantastic.
can unmute themselves.
Okay. And Forrest says he put his question in the chat. Has anyone used AI tools for collection development work? I'm thinking of analyzing shelf lists with collection data for both selection and weeding or something else. I think, yes. I've used it was an actual product by Baker and Taylor, but they used AI similarly to, what we were talking about with the Netflix and the what's that type of AI called again? You would think I would remember.
Generative, predictive.
Predictive. Yes. Um, so yes, that makes sense. Has anyone used AI for collection development work? I left collection development work before AI got too big. And so I've never used it in like a chat GPT kind of, like using generative AI. But has anyone else?
I have. This is Alan at Pender County Library. Um, I found it to be a useful additional tool. So I uploaded like a report that I would usually use for my own purposes as a human analyzing our collection usage. And I uploaded it into, in this case, it was for our adult nonfiction collection into Claude, and I just asked for it to give its analysis of areas where it thinks there could be some weeding that would be useful and areas where there are opportunities for growth. I would say is like additive to what I already do because there's some things that it surfaced that I did not previously. But I've also, just like you might both look at your reports and also walk the aisles and just like eyeball stuff. It's just another thing that you do that surfaces more things. And something that I think that it was particularly useful for is if you have like a really rich collection, like we have lots and lots of cookbooks, and it can be a little bit challenging to sort through all of them. There are so many of them to discern the patterns, and it was very helpful with that and helped identify where we were kind of overloaded and areas where there seemed to be opportunities for growth.
Oh, that's great. And Alan, would you be open to maybe talking more about it if someone reached out to you with questions?
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone wanted to reach out to me, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Put Alan on the spot.
Clarissa, we have used AI. We are trying to get North Star digital literacy up and off the ground. And so that, of course, is AI. I believe that's more of a research support type of AI. But I also run a Girls Who Code club, and we used, let's see, I guess it would be, I don't know, predictive AI, but we made their avatars from an AI digital tool that they were able to even make the textures cotton, or if they were larger or darker or whatever, they were able to make it look just like them, and it was a huge hit.
That's cool. Wow. Did did they enjoy that? They did, huh?
They love it. I mean, even when we go to talk about Java and Python and all that, we make it all very interactive. But the language and how you've got the slides today, it helps me to better explain that to them because people will ask all the time, are you having a class on AI? But it's just not like that. AI is already interwoven around us. And this is the very first slideshow that I've saw that actually explains it. So thank you.
Yeah, I feel we were actually talking about this earlier that a lot of the AI webinars that we've seen are tailored more to academic libraries and the work that they're doing. And it's different, it's similar in some ways, but it's different in the way that we would be using AI. And so, I thought Jenny did a great job with this. Jenny, do you want to keep sharing your slides or did you want to?
I believe this is the last one, actually.
Okay.
If I'm,
Hey, Jenny, I've got a question.
yes.
Can you please redefine the types of AI again and sort of give examples of what each is?
Sure, let's go back to the slide. So, types of AI you already use. Generative is the one we were talking about today. That is ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Claude. And an important thing to keep in mind is Gemini is different from the Google AI overview. Gemini is run by Google, but it's two separate platforms. So Gemini is more robust than that Google overview that you've been seeing in your searches. And that's what's great for brainstorming and summarizing information. Predictive AI is the one that we use every day and we don't think about. So when Amazon recommends a product, or Netflix recommends a show, Spotify recommends music, or just automatically plays it, whether you want it to or not, that's predictive AI. It's looking at similar users, seeing their patterns, and predicting what you might like too. And then assistive AI, of course, we've had that for many, many years now. GPS, autocorrect, voice assistance. And then research support is probably the one that most people use the least. It is, with research databases like EBSCO and ProQuest, and that is drawing from their curated sources and helping you refine your results when you're researching. Did that answer your question, Lori?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, I just wanted to clarify something. North Star does not use AI at this time.
Mhm.
I will never say never. It is just a static platform, a static application that does assessments, and depending on what goes on in there, it's more like if-thens, like classic computer programming. It's not gotten AI yet, however, one
Never
never
say never.
knows. Exactly.
However, Lori, we can take the data that comes out of North Star, which we have, and we have run it through Copilot to analyze data from North Star that we've pulled to give us its reactions to the data that we input. That's been something that I have played with for about 6 months. So it will tell you which assessments they're having trouble with. It will tell you which questions are problematic. In some of our research, if all 8 counties are missing the same question, I'd have to say it's not the user itself. It may very well be the way the question is asked. So that's one of the sections that we used AI to assist with, because if I had crunched that data, it could have taken 6 months to crunch it, where having AI do it was a lot faster. And we had 8 counties. Go ahead,
And
Lori.
we still go back and check what we get from AI
Correct.
versus the raw data, and versus what our questions are. What are we trying to answer? What are our objectives with the people that we serve? And then use AI.
And how large is the audience?
Exactly.
So the audience will skew the data. Some of our counties' libraries only have 4 librarians, others have 30 plus. But it was still showing trends, even when you compared the smaller libraries to the bigger libraries. There was still trends and questions being missed, being exactly the same. But again, right, unless you're telling the person who's reading the document that this is a smaller sample versus a bigger sample, it would skew the information. So we're having to go back, because AI is not perfect, and add some more descriptive information so that the reader of the report will understand why we weren't so concerned about certain low scores in certain libraries, because the sample was very small.
And also, this goes back into like data analysis too. Just make sure when you're reading or doing anything with AI, make sure you understand the context in which you are looking at whatever it is you're asking AI to do. Always make sure AI is like talking to, a toddler. who's just learning how to talk. You have to explain it in painful details, painful details sometimes, but it helps you get a better response when you have a very specific query. And also, I'm not sure if all of you know this, is you can upload documents to whatever AI generator you're using. So that's really helpful too. If you've written something or you have something, if you have a spreadsheet, upload it and let it use your data, your information, your resources or your sources, citations to really look for it. Be very specific. I always say, tell it what I want it to do using, and I put everything in parentheses that I wanted to use, or I upload it or use the uploaded documents. I probably give it too much information, but that's okay. We have 6 more minutes. Are there any questions, comments?
Did we want to talk about the tools that folks used for the pre-work reflection?
That would be great. Yes, do that now.
Okay. And then some of no, it's okay. And then some of the questions for the pre-work, was the answer accurate? Was anything missing? Did the responses sound confident to you? Did anything surprise you? And we will definitely share the slides. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. When did you guys have a chance to compare your pre-work or use 2 different models to ask a question that you were familiar with? If you'd like
Even
to
if you
unmute
didn't use it for the pre-work.
Yeah.
Even
or
if you
feel
did use
free
it for the
to
pre-work.
drop it in the chat. I know one of the example questions that you could use was how to boil an egg. And I was playing around and did that one too. And of course, the answer was very polished, very confident. But, I even noticed that it gave me clear steps, but I personally think I can boil perfect eggs. Like I never vary. I've got a method to how I do it and it never varies. So of course it wasn't my method. But it left out one simple step. It didn't tell me if I put the eggs in the water before or after it boiled. And that's huge. That can change your boiled egg entirely. So that was the big thing that I noticed that it left out.
I did, so I used it. I was watching a show that is based on a book series.
Mhm.
And I've read the book series and was watching the show now and was asking it questions about certain characters on the show. And it would tell me something and it would get it half right. And so, and
Right.
again, it was very frustrating because I was having this conversation with someone else who has not read the books, has only watched the show. And they were like, no, but it's telling us what's in the show. And I'm like, no, it would take like a little bit of both. And so that's
Right.
kind of where it made sense to me, where it's missing information because it's only getting information about the book through reviews and it hasn't watched the show
Yes.
either, so it
Yes.
again
And
from
that
reviews
is
and summaries.
yeah, that's a great way to tell when students are using AI. Every semester there was a paper where they had to um, do a film analysis, but they would ask AI and they would include things that happened in the book that were never in the film. So that was always a dead giveaway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I've asked it, like you, Clarissa, details. I'll be watching the 5th season of something, and it's been years since I saw the previous season. And I'll say, wait, what happened with this? And sometimes I have to correct it and say, no, I remember this detail specifically. You're wrong.
Yeah. I think that's also important not to be afraid to correct it.
Yeah.
and say, no, this was not, and it'll be like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. My
Depending on which one
mistake.
you use. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Please share your perfect boiled egg method.
So my perfect boiled egg is I wait until the water's boiling and I have my eggs sitting at room temperature because if they come straight out of the fridge, they'll crack when you put them in. So after the water's boiling, I put them in for 15 minutes. And then once that 15 minutes is over, I drain all the hot water out and then I let them soak in ice water for another 15 minutes because it makes them much easier to peel. And so it's just a nice hard boiled egg. The yolks haven't started to turn gray around the edges yet. It's perfect for me. So do with that what you will.
Unlike
Thank
me,
you.
who forgets her eggs.
Thank you all
Right.
for this great presentation today.
Yes, absolutely.
And we're around if anyone has any other questions. And
Yes.
yeah, and this was
And
recorded.
that's right. We'll be sharing that. And May 18th, we will have another webinar on Canva design.
Thank you all very much. We are done for the day. Hopefully we'll see you then in May.
Yes. All right. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.